Well, let's bring in the Senior Fellow at the Hudson Institute, John Lee, for his thoughts on this. John, good morning to you. It's quite the message that China is sending here. Do you believe that it is a dress rehearsal for something much bigger down the track?
Well, I don't think this particular exercise is a precursor to something down the track. It's actually quite a silly thing for the Chinese to do for two reasons. One, they look like the aggressor and the ones that have completely overreacted. But two, they're actually giving us clues as to how they may attack the island in a few years' time if they were capable of doing so. But overall, it's quite counterproductive for Beijing to be doing all this.
That is an interesting point. I was interested to a commentary piece that you wrote in The Australian this week, and you said, as China prepares for war, the West is walking on eggshells. Why are we doing that?
China is trying to tell us that it's inevitable it will get its way, including over Taiwan, that it will pay any price to get Taiwan. So there's really no point, trying to stop China from seizing Taiwan or anything else. This is a sort of message that China is telling the region, and what it wants us to do is back down every time it moves forward. I actually think the Pelosi visit was a helpful one because it didn't signal a change in US policy, but in a way it sort of called China's bluff, because remember all of the threats that China was issuing prior to the visit, that they would do
play with fire
if Pelosi visited. Well, these live fire exercises, then they're not pleasant, they're not great, but they don't actually advance China's cause. So China doesn't have a lot of moves at the moment to progress their claim over Taiwan.
So when Joe Biden and Xi Jinping had that phone call last week, and Xi Jinping warned him, you play with fire, you get burned, or words to that effect, have they proved here, or are they proving here that they're all hat no cattle, to use another expression?
Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say they're all hat no cattle, but what I would say is that they haven't punished America. They punished Taiwan. Yeah. And the threats, remember, were against America. Look, these exercises against Taiwan, they are a few notches above what has been done. But the Taiwanese are quite used to this. I mean, China has been invading Taiwanese air and sea space for quite a long time. So this isn't really anything that we wouldn't have expected.
Something that does appear to need clearing up. The people, John, people always seem to talk about reunification, China's reunification with Taiwan. But they've never been unified, right?
Well, history really does matter, and a distortion of history matters in terms of calling it out. The People's Republic of China, that is a China ruled by the Communist Party, that began in 1949. The PRC has never ruled Taiwan. So you'd have to go back a few hundred years for when China actually controlled Taiwan.
And another point that you made in your piece there, and I'm just quoting here, China and some voices in the West condemning Pelosi's visit, the conversation seems to always be about what the US should and shouldn't do because our thinking has essentially been programmed. Can you elaborate on that?
If you remember the sort of discussion leading up to whether Pelosi should visit or not visit Taiwan, it was all about, oh, don't do it because this is reckless and provocative to China. But there were very little conversation about what China ought to do or shouldn't do, or what we should encourage or compel China to do. And the point I'm trying to make is that this is exactly what China wants, that China wants to say to us, we will act in a certain way always. That's just a given in an international system. It's up to you to compromise. But that's just not how international politics works. But if we fall for that, to put it bluntly, we lose, because China is the one that's advancing and changing the status quo.
Yeah, OK. John Lee, the Senior Fellow at the Hudson Institute. Thanks for your time, John. Talk to you again soon.